Hey everybody, my name is Chris Lambert, and this is the Kanye West discussion for Monday, June 11th, 2018, presented by Watching the Throne, a lyrical analysis of Kanye West, the number one Kanye West podcast. Please forgive me as I have a bit of a sinus infection, so I may cough way too much during this. This weekend, the big news was that Kid See Ghost came out, the long-awaited Kanye West Kid Cudi project, which is the third in the string of 5 albums that Kanye West is releasing over a 5-week period. So we started with Daytona, Pusha T's album, went to Kanye's solo project, Ye, and now the joint album. And the responses have been pretty interesting to see. Pusha was near universal praise for Kanye's production, Pusha's lyrics. It's already being talked about as the best Pusha album that's ever been released. It built a lot of hype for Kanye's solo project, which then, as most Kanye projects do, met with a lot of polarized responses. A lot of people hated it, a lot of people loved it. Critics hated it, critics loved it. A lot of critics misunderstood it. A lot of people have misunderstood it. But like with most Kanye albums, it's already, even though it's been less than 2 weeks, I think starting to grow on people. People are starting to appreciate more of the nuance of what it's doing narratively and thematically. And it's building. It's going to take some time, just like with Yeezus, just like with Life of Pablo. But I think people will get there in appreciating what there is to appreciate, which is a lot. And then Kid See Ghost has been received with, I think, more praise than what Ye did. A lot of Kanye fans that I've talked to absolutely adored it. A lot of people I've seen on Twitter have adored it. Reviews have been more positive, I think, than reviews for Ye, though there's still a lot of people that misunderstand what it's going for. A lot of critics that it just completely went over their head. But one of the people that have been a champion of both albums has been Anthony Fantano. And I've given Fantano shit before because I've always felt that he's really, really smart when it comes to soundscape, whether that's the musical aspects, the production. He gets that. But I've always felt that he missed a lot of the narrative and thematic nuance of albums, especially Kanye's albums. And he could see that on something like To Pimp a Butterfly, because To Pimp a Butterfly, for as deep as it is, it's still more of a superficial, I'm explaining to you exactly what's going on kind of album. More like a Steven Spielberg movie compared to a Stanley Kubrick movie. And Fantano does really great with that kind of project. But when it comes to the narrative and thematic nuance of something like a Kanye album that takes a little bit more active engagement to understand, I've felt it's been a bit lacking. But with Ye, he understood that there was some nuance there and how that played into the soundscape, which I don't think he recognized on The Life of Pablo, which a lot of people at first didn't recognize on The Life of Pablo, that it's actually supposed to be chaotic back and forth because that plays into the which one question that's at the album's core. And with Kid See Ghosts, despite giving it a 10, which is, he gave Ye an 8, giving Kid See Ghosts a 10. I think it's only the 4th album that he's ever given a 10 to. The last one being To Pimp a Butterfly. And this is with him admitting that he's aware that the album's doing something more and that it has a relationship with Ye. That there's something artistically speaking, narratively, thematically there between the two albums, but he wasn't sure what. So I wanted to speak to that today because I feel like there are probably a lot of people that may be wondering how the two albums are connected. And our specialty on the podcast is narrative and thematic deconstruction and analysis. So, hey, that's what I'll be offering today. One thing to keep in mind, and probably the first major clue in how these two albums are connected, is this right here. The spiritual awakening that Kanye wrote for Ye, that was it initially there on the whiteboard that he shared earlier in May. That was the first glimpse at the track listings of Ye and the track listings of Kids See Ghosts. But after Ye released, he added the spiritual awakening. We know that spirits are ghosts, that ghosts exist in the spirit world, so it's pretty telling that if the next album's dealing with ghosts and the spirit, and he's saying that Ye is the spiritual awakening, that there's some sort of continuity between the two. Both albums use a 3-1-3 structure. And by that I mean that narratively and thematically, these songs here are grouped. This song here is a tipping point, and these songs are the aftermath of that tipping point. The same thing happens with Kids See Ghosts. Feel the Love, Fire, and Fourth Dimension are one grouping. Free is a tipping point. And then Reborn, Kids See Ghosts, and Cuddy Montage are the aftermath of that sense of freedom. So on Ye, a lot of the narrative deals with Kanye coming to grips with various aspects of his life. So sorry. One aspect being his diagnosis of being bipolar and him understanding what that means for him, how he has to deal with that, how that affects his life. Part of that, and we've spoken with a source from the audio engineering team that gave us some insight into this album. One of the goals that Kanye had with this was deconstructing what he had become through celebrity, through fame, the performance artist that he felt Kanye West was, because Kanye West was a celebrity that constantly had to be performing for the public. So in response to a lot of the performance art tweets and performance art theory, some of that was true, but it wasn't that Kanye as a person was trying to be a performer. It was that Kanye already felt he was a performer and was trying to deconstruct that persona and get back to being who he really was. Breaking the simulation, getting back to free thoughts, not feeling like he had to be a certain way because of celebrity. I think from that perspective, a lot of what he was doing made sense. And that played into the Charlemagne the God and TMZ interviews, which the Charlemagne interview came out the same day as the TMZ interview. And that was a purposeful look at Kanye in one setting and how he seemed in one setting versus Kanye in another setting and how he seemed in that setting. So when you see Kanye at home, one-on-one, he comes off a certain way. When you see Kanye in the TMZ office, where he's this celebrity that's coming in and they're editing it and he's trying to address this group, he comes off a completely different way. And that gets at that dynamic that he has been living with and wanting to explore and deconstruct on this album. So I thought about Killing You builds up a lot of the mania to the second half of that track has screaming in the background and a ramping up of this kind of Yeezus-like persona. Yikes furthers that, where we have Kanye narrating in the background that he sometimes feels scared, terrified of this mania that grips him. While in the foreground, we have a very excited, loud, bragging, harsh Kanye saying all this shit. And then All Mine, there's no counterbalance the way that Yikes and I Thought About Killing You kind of have a counter voice to the mania. All Mine is just mania. It's more gross, it's more bragging, it's more just ugly overall. And I think a lot of critics and people have caught on to that as part of the song, but not putting it in the context of the album itself and what the album's doing. Realizing that this is purposefully ugly, the same way that a character in a movie might purposefully be a dick in order to set up that character becoming a nicer person by the end of the movie. So in the wake of that complete mania in all mine, we get Wouldn't Leave, which is the reaction to those first 3 songs. You could almost call it Yikes Part 2. And that's looking at the fallout of what he's done, how that could damage his relationship with his wife, how it could have ended the life that he had, and him becoming aware of the consequences of that mania, of that persona. So in the wake of that, he tries to be a better person. He doesn't want to make any mistakes. He's coming back to feeling like a kid rather than feeling the pain of not understanding himself or being somebody that he's not. He's feeling free in a way that he hasn't before, which is what a lot of Ghost Town gets to. It's really the start of that spiritual awakening. And then Violent Crimes is this grown Kanye that's had this epiphany about himself, the world, realizing that he used to be this person that committed violent crimes. And now he's moving past that. He's a father who's understanding that he has a legacy that his child is going to look at, that he has to be a better person for his child. He just can't keep being something that he's not, or can't keep being this worst version of himself. And you could view that then as he's awoken to this new part of who he is, which then transitions to Kids See Ghosts. And a ghost is something that haunts you, or a spirit that never dies. If you're somebody that's at this point in your life where you're 40 years old, even me at 31, we're haunted by certain parts of our life, things that we've done, things that we've missed out on, things that we've done and haven't done, all those regrets, all those young, idiotic moments. We're haunted by past relationships, past successes that weren't quite as successful as we thought they'd be, all these things. And we can carry a lot of weight from that. And Kids See Ghosts is kind of this reckoning with those negative aspects of our history, those things that have driven us to act a certain way, be a certain way, these burdens that we've carried. And Kanye talks a bit about that on Ye. I think it's in Yikes. He references, let's see, where is it? Yeah. I can feel the spirits all around me. I think Prince and Mike was trying to warn me. They know I got demons all on me. Devil been trying to make an army. They be strategizing to harm me. Yeah. So even there, he's foreshadowing a little bit that he can feel the spirits, but can't quite see them. It isn't until he gets back to being a kid that he's able to see his ghosts. And in this sense, being a kid is a return to innocence. It's a return to who you were before the things in your life, the highs and lows, had shaped you into the adult that you had become, where you kind of feel more cemented as a person rather than the innocent, bright-eyed, I can be anything, I can do anything as a child. And it's on Ghost Town that Kanye starts to get back to that he feels like a kid again. He feels free. He's not burdened by the celebrity he's become, the performer he's become, the adult that doesn't understand himself. He's back to having wide eyes and opportunity to grow as an individual. But there's also an element of reality that comes in, which is something that's talked about on Violent Crimes. With the Shake chorus. They got to repaint the colors, the lie is wearing off. Reality is upon us, colors dripping off, colors dripping off. So I think that gets into this idea of the fact that we try to paint an illusion. We try to make things nicer than what they are. But when that's just a lie, it's a false presentation of the reality. So when the lie is wearing off, when reality is upon us, colors are dripping off. Colors dripping off. You're just seeing things for how they are. So it's kind of telling that Kids See Ghosts, the cover is so vibrant and so colorful. That's part of the lie. And that Kids See Ghosts as a soundscape is so dark. And the lyrics throughout are pretty dark themselves. Fentano mentions it, that a lot of the lyrics are Cuddy dealing with a lot of the emotional issues that he's had to deal with throughout his life, and Kanye dealing with a lot of the emotional issues that he's had to deal with throughout his life. And that's part of this. They're encountering the ghosts. Oh, there goes my voice. They're encountering the ghosts of their past selves, their future selves of who they could have been, the things that haunt them, and they're working through it. This is the reality of who they are, rather than the nicely presented celebrity selves. Like there's truth to this soundscape. There's truth to these lyrics, and there's something cathartic about facing it. But that catharsis has to be earned. Feel the Love starts out in more of a... It does some interesting things. You have Cuddy... I'm trying to show how he frames it. He says feel the love at the beginning, but then you have an aggressive Pusha T come in, an aggressive Kanye come in, and Cuddy come back with feeling the love. It's almost like... I can feel the love despite this aggressiveness that I put on display, which we know Kanye's been saying, that despite all of his fuck-ups, despite all of the troubles he's caused in the last 2 months, he can still feel the love. And then Fire and Fourth Dimension are similar to the structure of Ye, in that they are more in a darker place at the beginning than what we see on Reborn, Kids See Ghost, and Cuddy Montage. There's some of the darker parts of the album. A bit more aggressive still, a bit more of that wrestling with your past self that you're like, ugh, ugh. The ghosts. But then you get to Free, which is Ghost Town Part 2, which is a clear connection between Ye and Kids See Ghosts. If it wasn't for all the lyrical foreshadowing that Kanye does, and a lot of the thematic foreshadowing, and him writing Spiritual Awakening on the board, you have the direct connection just between Ghost Town and Ghost Town Part 2 on Free. Except here, Ghost Town Part 2 with Free is the tipping point in the middle. It's where things change. And it's after that sense of freedom, after they've confronted those previous selves, that we get Reborn, where you can move forward and move on to something else. And where you get Kids See Ghosts, where it's just that naked understanding that sometimes you're going to see your ghosts. You're going to encounter them, and you're just going to have to let them pass by. They're not anything to you. That's who you were, but that's not who you are. And then Cuddy Montage, geez. One of the most interesting parts about that to me, talking about ghosts, is that it uses the sample from Kurt Cobain, Burn the Rain. And we know that Kurt Cobain, aside from Nirvana, is known for committing suicide. So to have the ghost of him on this track at the end of the album, knowing that that's the point that Cuddy and Kanye each could have reached. We know that both have dealt with suicidal thoughts. Cuddy addressed it before on Twitter. Kanye addresses it with I Thought About Killing You, the first song on Ye. To go from that first song on Ye, talking about I Thought About Killing You, which refers to the self, it refers to others, and even talking at one point on I Thought About Killing You that people say that he died young. which is really bleak that Kanye was in that state of mind, you kind of have the spirit of Kurt Cobain hanging over them, that they could be another artist that's known not just for the music, but for having committed suicide. We just got it with Chris Cornell. Oh God, I feel so bad for Chad Bennington? Chester Bennington. Oh God, I'm so sorry. I love Linkin Park too. I don't even think Bennington's right. Chester, I'm so sorry. But to have that specter of suicide haunting this song and having it be the way that Kanye opened these joint albums with these thoughts of death and suicide, and that coming back in, and Cudi really having this dark verse, but having that sense of coming through that, pain in my eyes in the time I find I'm stronger than I ever was. Here we go again, God. Shine your love on me. Save me, please. That they've found something to connect to that's made them stronger. That suicide isn't going to be what claims them, but they've made it through. They're not just kids again, but they're like whole in a way that they haven't been. They're empowered in a way that they haven't been. And that comes through with Kanye just repeating at the end of the song, Lord, shine your light on me, save me, please. Save me, Lord, stay strong, stay strong, stay strong. That you're just in this place where you're able to tell yourself to stay strong, that you're connected to your faith in a way that allows you to stay strong. That while they're the ghosts of everything that you felt around you and everything that you've been around you, and the ghosts of others, of these fates that could be you, that doesn't have to be you, that you can change and grow, which is what we saw on Ye. So it's the dynamic is interesting in that Kids See Ghost is a sequel, but it's also almost like a midpoint between Ye and, like, what am I trying to say? It's almost like Kids See Ghost follows Ghost Town. And Violent Crimes is what follows Cudi Montage, right? That Kanye knows that he can stay strong and be a better person and grow, and doesn't have to be in the negative space that he found himself in. That he's this innocent kid again that can be positive, can stay strong, and develop into something that's different than what he was. So that's how these albums connect. Narratively, thematically, there's a lot of just that idea of not having to be what you were and growing from that, but also the reality of it. I think that's the big thing, is that reality of your life can be scary, but the reality can also be beautiful and empowering if you let it be beautiful and empowering. So that's where we're at for now. If you have any questions on that, leave a comment. If you have any thoughts you want to share, leave a comment. If you have any corrections, we have started our narrative and thematic deconstructions track by track through these albums. Tomorrow, just in a few hours, Tuesday the 12th, our I Thought About Killing You episode comes out on YouTube, iTunes, TuneIn, Spotify, wherever. So if you want to listen to that and get more nuanced into this narrative, there's a lot of good discussion there. But we still have 7 weeks of doing this line by line deconstruction. Tuesdays we're doing Ye, Fridays we're doing Kids See Ghosts. So I think by the end of that process, this explanation is going to be fine-tuned a little bit more, but this is just the initial overview. I don't think that will change that much, but there'll be a lot more stronger specifics that come up. But thank you for taking the time to listen. I think that's not quite it. Not quite it. I wanted to share the full bday song for Kanye from Rick and Morty. So I'm going to play that and be out. If you want to support the show a little bit, we have some shirts for sale. 2 types of runaway shirts with a lot of color variants, and then a Hold My Liquor shirt that's just black or white. And then we have a 3rd shirt that's currently in the works. So, you know, they help us out. They help you look good and show off your Kanye fandom. So much appreciated there. But here's this to play us out.
Hey Morty, it's Kanye's birthday today, Morty.
Huh?
You know what that means?
Rick, don't, please.
Come on, Morty, we got a place to be right now.
Jeez.
It's Kanye's birthday, Morty.
Oh, man.
It only happens once every 7 years, Morty. Crawling through the window. Right now, it's Kanye's birthday time.
I don't think we should be in here, Rick.
Crawling now across the floor, towards his bed. He's got nice sheets.
Where's Kim at? Isn't she supposed to be here?
Crawling up the sheets, under the sheets with Kanye. I'm getting close and cuddly now.
Man, it's like the 4 seasons in here.
It's Kanye's birthday time. It's a birthday day. Kanye, as I cuddle him in his sheet.
Rick? Rick? What are you doing under there? I don't think this is okay. Someone's gonna come in here, Rick. Jesus. Rick, what are you doing under there? What's all those noises?
Kanye,
What's going on?
not awake. He's still asleep, and I'm gonna give him a kiss on his forehead. He's sexy and buff, and he's nice. I'm gonna write my name and pin on his leg.
Oh, I hope he doesn't wake up.
He's a human being, he's a friend. He's a human body, he's a pillow. He's my friend, it's his birthday.
Jesus Christ.
It's Kanye's birthday today. Great news for me. So you can look at this here, Morty, we take this, and then we clones of them later.
Yes, I got it.
Just make some Kanye clones. Gonna fill a room with them. Amazing music will come out of that room. Oh, look, Morty, he's dreaming. He's having a little dream, Morty. Look at his toes wiggle.
Yeah, I see it.
Oh, he's beautiful. He's a beautiful human being. Happy birthday, Kanye.
Jesus Christ, Rick, there's a bucket of bones over there in the corner of the room.
Yeah, you're right, Morty. We better get going. Kanye, I love you. See you later. Morty, grab all those sneakers.
These ones?
Yeah, they're worth a bunch of money. Just grab them. We gotta go. Hurry up. Let's get the fuck out of here. It's happy birthday, Kanye.